You see Adam there on the left playing Gruul lands. We've seen Adam win quite a bit in the Legacy format on the NRG series. Basically was able to qualify for the championship last year off the back of just some really, really impressive Legacy performances time and time again. And, I think at this point, very well known for his love of land strategies. He's played like Amulet and Modern and all that kind of stuff. So, Gruul lands going to be something he's very familiar with. And Sam, someone I have not gotten the opportunity to watch too much of yet, playing some Cloudpost. Talk to me about how this matchup is different from what we've seen before without things like Elvish Reclaimer, Endurance's Underground Adventure, and stuff like that.
Okay, so previously, like quite a while ago, people will probably remember that Cloudpost was a deck that heavily leaned on stuff like, I don't know, Expedition Map, which it still does to a certain degree, but not all that much anymore. You have Elvish Reclaimer, which basically introduced a new change to deck. We are much more heavily relying on our colored mana sources, in this case only really green. We have Green Sun Zenith to find either Acceleration or Elvish Reclaimer. So we are playing somewhat of a slightly less explosive game, but we're a lot more resilient, because previously, like a land stack, Life from the Loam, Wasteland, what have you, they can completely destroy you. We do have 3 copies of Pithing Needle in the main deck of the Cloudpost deck, which is 99% of cases always going to name Wasteland, so that you just get to play the game. Overall, I would think that Adam is going to be an advantage just because of the Life from the Loam plus Wasteland engine. And Sam will need to find Green Sun Zenith. Interestingly, by the way, we had Adam in the interview booth yesterday, and he mentioned that he's tried to find a deck that's not susceptible to Orcish Bowmasters. And in Gruul lands, he very much found a deck that doesn't really care all that much about the card at all, as he's sitting at 2-0. So those far things have been going well for him.
Yeah, I mean, not exactly. There's just no creatures, right? In the main deck, there's literally nothing. There's no targets you're going face. So, certainly a deck very, very good against the likes of Orcish Bowmasters. Here's a turn 1 Soul Guide Lantern off of the back of Urza Saga for Adam. Obviously, namesake Cloudpost from Sam as we return back. It has to be excited that Cloudpost got to stay and play. Glimmer Post, the follow-up. 2 Locust lands already ready to go. See if he wants to do anything with that mana. He does not, as we go back to Adam. Going to take a draw step and a second counter on Urza's Saga. See Expedition Map among other cards for Adam. And Ancient Tomb is going to allow him to crack it immediately if he wants to find Wasteland. Chooses not to, passes the turn back to Sam. So a lot of colorless mana here for 2 decks that are green or green plus. Only colorless lands available for both players as Thespian Stage played by Sam.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Another way that both players can play the matchup is to try to establish Wasteland supremacy in the sense or rather deny that, because Sam has access to Remote Excavator. And as far as I've seen, at least in the main deck, Adam doesn't really have a way to remove that. So Sam could try to stay ahead by constantly replaying stuff from graveyard. Of course, your Cloudposts are going to come into play tapped, so that's basically a losing game. And as soon as Adam gets an exploration down, it's probably lights out, because Sam is never going to be able to actually establish a board where you get to cast your high end stuff. You could try, to play the game by just hard casting Primeval Titan at some point. I've seen that even in the face of Blood Moon, the deck can do that, which of course is not a factor here. But right now, Sam is just going to make constructs and try to go to town. Adam is making constructs and trying to go to town. On Sam's side of the board, he's got Thespian Stage. So, at some point, he's threatening a Dark Depth kill. And I wonder if does Adam have a Needle in the main deck? He does. Yes, he does. So he might name Thespian Stage, even though that's also going to hit his own one. But instead, he goes for Needle. Okay, that's the new artwork.
Yeah, he does go for the Invention Needle there. It does also choose to make a second construct. And so that means that we're going to go to town, beat downtown. That is a 4/4 construct going to attack Sam. And so we have actually a real clock established. Normally, lands is kind of well known for, doing the Wasteland lock thing and stopping your opponent from playing Magic and not really having as quick of a kill. But there is a Wasteland happening right away on Cloudpost. Can't Thespian Stage it in response because of the Pithing Needle that came into play. Has to have named Thespian Stage. And now we're back to Sam. Went from 4 mana to 2 mana, and obviously he was representing some more life coming off of Glimmer Post, but he needs a ton of time to get back up and running as far as the mana is concerned.
Yeah, and the problem for Sam right now is he's basically playing the old mode of Cloudpost, where you're literally sitting on just a bunch of colorless mana and trying to ramp up into your super high-end Eldrazi spells. The deck has access to green to not be forced to play that kind of game, because it's not as good as it used to be at that. But without any access to green, Sam is in a world of hurt, because he literally can't do anything. He draws a card. If that's not a green source, I think Adam might just run away with the game. How big are these constructs? They're 4/4. No, they're 5. They're
5/5s now.
They got lethal on the board right now.
Deployed. And that Expedition Map can obviously threaten to find another copy of Wasteland. So even if he does Find something. That's the first spell on turn 3 that we're casting. Gonna be Once Upon a Time. You see Adam giggling there a little bit. Had to do the check as well to make sure that, wait, you haven't played any spells yet? Nope. Just played some lands. So here's a Once Upon a Time for free on turn 3. A little later than we normally see it happen.
This must be some kind of green source, I would guess. Because if you just pack it. Even if you find a green source, there's not even all that much that you can do here in the first place. And we quickly move on to the second game. As we can tell, basically all on the back of that one Wasteland that Adam had on the Cloudpost. Took care of that vulnerability.
A little bit of impressive kind of understanding of the matchup where Adam was able to get to the board very quickly from the Ancient Tomb and the Saga as we take a look at his deck and was able to get the game over with very quickly. Here's 2 copies of Fairy Macabre, 2 copies of Lightning Bolt, 2 Pyroblast, 1 Red Elemental Blast, 2 Surgical Extraction, 3 Force of Vigor, 1 Grafter's Cage, and 2 Choke in the sideboard for this lands deck. What do you like in this matchup?
Honestly, not all that much. Like, I don't really see anything that jumps out at me where I feel like, oh yeah, I need this in my life. Obviously, you could try to, Now, let's not talk about Grafter's Cage because technically there's 4 copies of Green Sun Sunset, but that's really not doing it. That's not where you want to be. And for the rest, is there anything that's like looks good to you? Because I don't really see anything I want.
Yeah, I mean, you can maybe want the bolts if you want to try to kill some reclaimers, if that's doing some amount of work to mitigate the work that Wasteland can do. And like the Soul Guide Lantern's pretty bad. Maybe you make that swap for Cage, even though it's not very good. Not sure. Small adjustments made here. Like you mentioned before, I think the game 1 looks very, very good for Adam, thanks to the density of Wastelands, ways to find it and recur it. And gonna want to probably run that strategy back. I guess that's one.
Sorry to interrupt you there. I guess that's one strategy. It's kind of a little bit cheesy, but you could bring in like 2 copies of Surgical Extraction, try to Wasteland one of the Cloudposts, and take that one out. The Cloudpost deck can still win, especially in the current configuration. It's not like as lights out as it would have been like for previous iterations of the deck, but especially when you have that cards in the main deck, as you mentioned, the Soul Guide Lantern that we don't really want at all, that would be an easy swap that I think might also want over something like the Lightning Bolt.
Sure. Well, let's take a look then at Sam's deck, see exactly what he is working with. We got 1 Collector Roof, 2 Fairy Macabres, 1 Surgical Extraction, 3 copies of Force of Vigor, 4 copies of Mindbreak Trap, and 4 copies of Carpet of Flowers. What kind of adjustments are we making here?
It's tough to say. Like, Force of Vigor does have quite a lot of targets. You could hit, like, if you hit the Mox Diamond, that's of course a dream. You want to hit some of like the opponent's Urza Sagas. You can hit Sylvan Libraries. So I think it might just be good enough to bring it in. Also hits like Crucible of Worlds, which would be like a big pain for you. I could see those coming in. And then he has to decide, like, does he want to fight over like Life from the Loam and Wasteland, in which case he would bring in like Surgical and maybe copies of Fairy Macabre. I can see that happening. So those are the cards that I'm most interested in right now.
That makes a lot of sense. Some amount of ways to mitigate Wasteland and or ways to recur it. You mentioned the Needles, a big part of the main deck plan for that card. Didn't really have any of those, did Sam in that game, and Wasteland, kind of ate his lunch. So we'll see, exactly what kind of adjustments you can make. But overall, I think I like your assessment as well. And a few bad ones that maybe not worth it. The Endurance do some amount of work in the main deck to cover Wasteland recursion from the graveyard, but if you want something a little bit more permanent like Surgical Extraction, that could be the direction you want to take.
Yeah. Overall, I'm still not super excited for Cloudpost after sideboarding, but honestly, it's not like it's gonna be a total blowout. I think it's gonna depend a lot on how quick Adam is gonna come out of the gates here. Like, whenever I'm playing against these land stacks and they have the Mox Diamond, especially on the draw, it feels like they caught up to me immediately. It's sometimes you can keep them like on the back foot by making them Wasteland when they don't really want to Wasteland, by making them Loam when they actually want to like progress the game on their side of the board. But once they get Mox Diamond, it feels like you can't really play that kind of game and have to present something rather sooner than later. Something like, you bring down a land and you cast your Primeval Titan, which of course is going to be like a big important card in the matchup. From Adam's side, I'm actually wondering, does Adam have good ways to get rid of a potential Pithing Needle? Because that's a card on Wasteland that could be a problem.
Boseiju, I think, is the primary way that you can search for like recur in order to answer Pithing Needle. Outside of that, I think things start to get kind of difficult. As a turn 1, Once Upon a Time, this one happening on turn 1, not turn 3, is going to find Cloudpost and Forest into crop rotation for Adam. Is it Wasteland time right now? Wasteland time right now?
Yeah, it might be. I mean, you're basically going down a card, but who cares? Like, your opponent skipped their first turn as well. So I think I very much want to go for that.
Yeah, and certainly, the Cloudpost lands are worth more than one card, kind of like Tron lands, right? Like from Modern, if you're familiar with the Modern format. Once they get going, they're worth more than one land because they produce more than one mana. So the crop rotation trade with your forest, just a Wasteland, definitely can be worth it as far as stymieing some of the development Sam can do. So there's the turn 1 Wasteland, no permanents in play, and Surgical Extraction on draw step for Adam. Oh my goodness, you called that one, and another Cloudpost in hand. Oh no!
Is there even like any other land? Like, do you see anything there? I don't
know what that altar is. I can't get a great look at that because of the camera at the moment. That's an Ulamog. That's the serial Ulamog. It looks like they did the puzzle on the back of the puzzle box, or the serial backs for the Ulamog.
So Sam will can only pass back the turn here without any kind of like even if he draws a land, like what is he going to do with that land? He's still not casting anything until like he finds 3 lands. I mean, you got crop rotation, but that alone, it only filters your land. This is so good for Adam. If Adam has any kind of follow-up to this, he's going to run away with the game like rather quickly.
Yeah, there goes the remaining copies of Cloudpost. So not only do you get to extract the Cloudpost that you just wastelanded, you got to live the full dream and get the one out of hand that was Sam's only land. And there's not much Sam can do at the moment except pass the turn back. And if Adam has any kind of follow-up at all, it doesn't even need to be very good. He just needs like lands and spells. This is going to be a real uphill battle for Sam. It's funny to have this game be so close to over when neither player has any permanents in play, but it feels like Adam is very much advantaged despite having literally nothing in play at all.
And at this point, if Adam has access to like an Ancient Tomb, he could even drop his Urza Saga that he has in hand right now. Otherwise, he's probably going to go for the other land. I actually couldn't see what that is.
Looks like we got a Yavimaya, maybe a Bojuka Bog as well.
Could be with Bojuka Bog, just get it down, have a land of it. Yeah, there's a Yavimaya. Yeah, this is perfect. You get your tap land down, then you get your Saga down, then you get your Yavimaya. Like, the Yavimaya is actually interesting because it also gives Sam access to green mana, and he's been struggling to find that in the first place. But
he needs to find a land at all in the first place, so we got work to do no matter what way you slice it. I think giving him green mana is the least you could do after Surgical Extracting Cloudpost. Here is Urza Saga deployed in turn 2.
If this is how the game goes, is Sam going to go out of this match after casting literally 2 Once Upon a Time and then nothing for the entire match?
I think we got a Force of Vigor. Yeah, we can cast our Force of Vigor. We got 2 spells. 2 spells this game. Come on.
You already doubled our spell count.
So that's 1 target there. Going to take care of the Saga. Back to Sam we go. And I mean, that Force of Vigor, we're kind of laughing about it. It's actually something, right? It does do some amount of work to mitigate what Adam's presenting. Well, now it's back. And here's the Wasteland.
Oh, this is so painful.
And so is the forest. So now it's
pretty unfortunate for Sam when you think about it. Like, he cast Once Upon a Time on the first and could only find another Cloudpost instead of what he really wanted, which would have been like a basic forest. Hey, and we do find a Dark Depth that can actually produce green mana. So
we can continue away. So it is actually strong against the Wasteland, right? That's present in hand because we can crop rotate it.
That's actually kind of cute. Dark Depths can tap itself. Well, the crop rotation.
Oh no, it pitched the crop rotation. Oh no. Yeah. Okay, well, no. There we go.
Honestly, at this point, I might even just run out the extra Wasteland. Oh, we can do both. We can do the Wasteland and the Saga because we have the Exploration.
Yeah, we have Exploration. So now we got 2 lands available. Force of Vigor's already been used on that one. Wasteland is the first land for turn for Adam. Second land for turn. Going to be Ghost Quarter, and just passing the turn back to Sam saying, all right, I mean, I don't really need to Wasteland you quite yet. I can do it on Instap or whatever. Under no pressure to really get the game over with Saga is Adam, as Sam takes another draw step and just passes the turn back, building up a lot of cards in the hand. Not worth a whole lot if you can't cast them. As here is an in-step crop rotation, sacrificing Bojuka Bog.
What's that gonna get? Are we trying to like...
Can we get Thespian Stage and just copy his Dark Depths?
Yeah, I think that's actually the play. That's what I was wondering. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, crop rotate. In response to the target, I'm going to crop rotation my Dark Depths. Okay, says Adam, go ahead.
You got it.
Oh,
perfect.
I mean, that had to happen or you're just dead. Like,
I guess you got some sweet plays out of this.
Yeah.
I wonder what Sam is going to get. Probably something that can't get Wastelanded. Like, anything else you get is it's like the Exploration plus Wasteland plus Loam engine makes it so that you either assemble a bunch of basic lands, which, they're actually pretty heads-up play from Adam to like put that Ghost Quarter somewhere in there, because once Sam tries to get basic lands between Exploration, Loam, and Ghost Quarter, Sam will also run out of basic lands. So at this point, I'm not even sure. Like, if Sam plays a very heads-up game, the only way Sam can still win this is by finding a Surgical Extraction on the Loam Yeah, it's probably going to be the Loam, because even if you extract the Wasteland, there's still going to be the Ghost Quarter. This is the biggest battle that's like, I almost don't see a way to victory for Sam here at this point. Like, Adam has played this very well.
I mean, Adam picked up a copy of Crucible of Worlds, which is going to go ahead and get deployed. And that Wasteland's good. I don't know what that's copying, but there's no basics in play. So Wasteland definitely works. Here's Bojuka Bog to annihilate that graveyard. Here comes Urza Saga to go ahead and get the game over with. And this is kind of the advantage now of the lands deck we see today, being able to make these construct tokens over and over again. And hey, there's Bojuka Bog. That does take care of the life from the Loam. So now something like another Force of Vigor can maybe get the party started, taking care of the exploration and the Crucible of Worlds. I mean, that's the kind of things it's going to take, right? We're going to have to start answering all of these things. And then once we're finally caught up, we need to start drawing a bunch of mana in order to cast some of these cards that are in our hand. As here's Expedition Map. That's going to be a problem if it grabs something like a Dark Depths.
You know what I'm seeing here? I'm seeing here Ghost Quarter twice every turn and run Sam out of basic lands so quickly. Because we got the Crucible, we can replay the Ghost Quarter from the graveyard. I mean, you can clearly just like wasteland him out here. That's another thing. But at some point, you can literally just like draw out all the basic lands. So Sam is going to be put in a position where he's even like drawing that, even though his deck might have like something like 40.
Yeah, I mean, there's a forest. So there's the first one. But like you mentioned, yeah, like Adam has so much time thanks to slogging through all these lands and the interaction he's had that it may not even be enough just because these constructs, even without the Ghost Quarter. But yeah, the Ghost Quarter alongside these constructs, they're going to be made, be able to be replayed and all that stuff. It spells a very, very sure victory, I think, for Sam. Not sure what he can have to get out, but it's going to involve like certainly multiple Force of Vigors and to drawing mana that works quickly. And, you know, maybe some needles are involved in the mix. It needs to be basically the exact cards you want every turn for the next like 3 turns. Yeah. Not necessarily confidence in impossible, but it's so difficult at this point that things certainly looking very, very gloom for Sam. As Adam going searching with the Urza Saga final chapter, having made another construct, going to find Soul Guide Lantern, going to annihilate that Bojuka Bog. I mean, we talked about cutting it. Maybe it's just good enough to draw a card. Make your final Saga turn and draw a card. Gives you some tricksiness with your life from the Loam and be able to get it out of the graveyard at instant speed as the Saga comes back as the land for turn out of the graveyard thanks to Crucible. And another one as land for turn out of hand. All right.
Really likes constructs.
Sure does.
From Sam's side, like he's still playing. I guess you can try to make it work, and there's always also the possibility of like Adam maybe making a mistake and giving you access to one more mana than he thought you could like use. Is this Expedition Map okay? And
mad respect for Sam for continuing to play here.
How big are these constructs? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, wow.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Farm on a disenchant.
No. Expedition Map. No. Trash can.
Yeah.
Get it out of here.
I'm wondering if we can actually like get enough the constructs big enough to actually win on this turn. We need to make them 8/8s. They are 4/4s right now. We can make them 6/6s.
2 to 6. If we copied a Saga, would we have gotten anywhere? I don't think so.
Probably not.
Oh, we had to wait to copy it until it had the mana making mode anyway. Exactly. Yeah. So okay, here we go. Here's 6. Attack for 6. That puts you to 4. Now you need I don't know, upheaval. I don't know, something that is not possible in order to continue. Here's a Maze of Ith. Why not? Sure, I got a Maze of Ith in case you Dark Depths extra turn me somehow in one turn. And Sam, draw step, says good match, shakes hands, and we move along with things. Adam Wasburn-Moses, a dominant victory over Sam with the Gruul Lands deck over the mono green Cloudpost. And like I said, this is a matchup that I think historically has been very much about wastelanding and recurring wasteland. Even though there's a bunch of new cards that have become available, kind of looks like it's more or less still about that.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the Cloudpost deck already adapted by being a little bit lower to the ground and like also making use of the basic lands. But here, the whole story was that the mana for Sam didn't really work out in the first place. And then, you know, Adam also had like something to say about anything he tried to make work. So we didn't really get to see a real game of Magic. I think it's closer than what we saw on screen right now. But overall, I think Adam was a favorite, and he capitalized on that.
Absolutely. So with that, let's head on down to our backup match. We do have a backup match for this round, and another interesting matchup. This one also about artifacts. You get to see Richard here piloting the 8-cast deck. You can see with a nice, 8-cast start here. Travis Brown seen some success already this weekend. Has a start on what looks to be a mono-white hammer deck in Legacy by starting with an Esper Sentinel. Have to imagine he's already drawn his card for turn, and here is a Chalice on I believe, turn 1 here for Richard. So that seems like it's going to be good against the Hammer deck. Colossus Hammer does cost 1, as here's the Emery follow-up, 4 cards coming into the graveyard. Didn't get a great look at those. Thought Monitor, maybe Force of Will among the mix. Ancient Tomb on top, obviously. Maybe Lotus Petal final card. Looks like, 2 Lotus Petals, maybe a Force of Will, a Thought Monitor, and an Ancient Tomb, and a bunch of permanents. Your turn. Travis, draw. Do have some 2-drop cards in the deck, but we're in a tight spot here.
Yeah. This is another deck that can actually be played in Legacy. It even did well in quite a lot of challenges over the last year or something. Like Hammer is another one of those decks that you can port from Modern to Legacy rather easily. And right now, I think 8-cast is just like one of those decks. It heavily punishes decks that are trying to play a fair game. So if Hammer wants to do something here, especially in the first game, you probably need something that involves Colossus Hammer and equipping those rather quickly. But it also needs to have haste. We talked about how big of a deal Sai is. We don't see Sai right now, but the deck also struggles playing through that Shadows in 1. So not sure how this is going to go, but I think Rich is very much in driver's seat here. And by the way, looking at the decklist, also has an infinite combo in here, unless I'm mistaken. I've never seen this, but he has 2 copies of Mirren Spy, which is like a 1/3 for 3 mana flying. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, you may untap target creature. So from what I understood here by looking at the decklist, you can cast, let's say, Lotus Petal from the graveyard. That untaps Emery, then you use the Lotus Petal for mana. When you use Emery to play it again, which untaps Emery, so I guess you could make infinite mana that way, then draw your entire deck with, let's say,
how about we find out right now, Julian, as here is the copy of Mirren Spy in play alongside Emery, alongside Lotus Petal and Urza's Bauble. So with that, I think everything you were just talking about is going to come to fruition right here. Here's Esper Sentinel trigger off of the Urza's Bauble. I do like this here from Rich, able to just pay for the Esper Sentinel trigger, so that, whatever, I'm going to make infinite mana anyway. Mirren Spy is going to untap Emery, and here comes back low. Oh, he's thinking.
Bauble is not the preferable way to do this because it delays it for a turn. If you had other Spellbomb available, you could bounce out of your opponent's creature. I guess you couldn't cast that through Chalice, so you gotta go for the Baubles anyway.
Okay, so we're doing a deck count here to see how many cards we're gonna draw. Okay. I love this, Travis. He's like, all right, wait, you don't have to pick the deck up and count. Just go ahead and count the cards in play here. And we have decided a number of things to Urza's Bauble. And Urza's
you know what's interesting to me? Let's say you activate Urza's Bauble 40 times. Which of the cards out of Trevor's hands do you get to see? Because it's not so that it's guaranteed that you see all of the 5 different cards.
Come on.
Are we gonna resolve 40 looks?
Oh my god, he's doing it. Oh, he's gonna do it until he hits 1 of every number.
That's actually the smartest. That's by far the smartest way. Dude, I love how smart Magic players are about
oh no, you have to roll it up. You have to roll it up. Oh, it doesn't work. No, you have to roll it up. Okay.
Oh, because I shuffle every time. Oh, kind of. Yeah. Oh my god, maybe Travis just gonna concede here.
Why are we doing this? This is terrible. No, no.
You know what I would maybe actually do in Travis' position? I might accidentally drop my hand on the board. You know what I mean?
I would reveal my hand. Personally, if I was in Travis' seat, I'd look, as fun as this is, trust me, this is really fun.
Just drop your hand on the board oopsie.
The thing is, you don't know if you see Pure Steel Paladin, pretend he has 2 Pure Steel Paladins in his hand, right? You see 1 Pure Steel Paladin every time. You don't know if there's 2 Pure Steel Paladins or if you've just seen that Pure Steel Paladin that many times. So
oh my god.
There is some amount of nonsense going on here, as we've seen, I think, Ingenious Weaponsmith, Ancient Den, and Pure Steel Paladin. So if we see a 4th card, we've seen it all. And we don't.
If you're tuning in right now, this is Legacy, where we roll a dice 40 times and then somebody reveals their hand. This is why we love the format. We play it all the time at my home. My friends come over, we keep rolling the dice as
this is some Chaos Orb levels of ridiculousness. What are we doing? It's just moving dice around, flipping cards over. It's just okay, come on. I thought we were playing some competitive Magic. What are we doing? I believe it is finally Travis's turn. Rich has a ton in hand, and I am not optimistic about Travis's chances of winning this game from here, as here's a 2-mana play of Ingenious Weaponsmith. Pulled while Rich consults the grip. which includes approximately 2/3 of his deck, thanks to this really innovative combo with Mirren Spy, Emery, and these 0-mana artifacts. Kind of reminds me of like a Jeskai Ascendancy style setup where like every time you cast the thing, it like untaps it, but you get to just kind of do it for 3 mana. Okay, we've decided after consulting the grip and G as Weaponsmith is okay to happen.
No, I'm wondering whether Rich has like any way to close out the game right away next turn, because I don't think so. So Travis might just get another turn. Not sure if that's actually going to do anything for him, considering that Rich is probably going to be sitting on 4 Force of Will plus pitch, and I would guess going to run out like a Kappa Cannoneer. Like you probably start out by a Sai, then like all of your 0-mana spells, then make like 4 copies of Kappa Cannoneer and pass the turn behind 4 forces. It's like, yeah. I mean, if Travis
here's Colossus Hammer,
which gets countered, right?
I believe we're Force of Willing it, which triggers Esper Sentinel. It should get countered from Chalice. Looks like Rich may not have seen that necessarily, but or it's just styling on him. All this is fine. This could be responsive. I mean, I don't blame him. How do you? I mean, what matters? You have your entire hand. Nothing matters. You can do whatever you want. And yeah, Wastelanded is Rich. There goes the Ancient 2. We forced the Colossus Hammer, so that one's gonna hit the bin. And yeah, back to Rich. I have so much respect for Rich if he like acknowledges his Chalice trigger and it's just like, I don't care. Force of Will.
I want to counter something.
So much. All right, and now we're declaring infinite mana with the Lotus Petal. So yeah, make infinite mana. Yeah, I'll pay for the Esper Sentinel. Okay. So what's gonna happen here is all the Kappa Cannoneers get to go into play and become infinite infinites, because you can just keep playing the Lotus Petal, right? That's how that works. Yeah. And then, sure, there's Sai. Now we have infinite Thopters.
We can even draw the actually other remaining cards now. Like, is that like that's
yeah, I think you only drew like I said, it looks like there's like 20 cards or whatever. Oh, there's another Mirror Spy, so now we can just do multiple things. Why not? Oh, here's another Kappa Cannoneer. Yeah, I don't know. Where should Magical Christmas land? This is like not even the first time today. We've just felt like we're just not even in the rules of Magic anymore. We're just like doing stuff like this, whether it was that creative technique earlier or this now, we're just like doing stuff. And this is so wild. Yeah. And Travis has seen enough. Understands the joke here that these, we're going to have infinite creatures that can't be blocked. We have infinite Thopters. There's no way for you to win. He's not going to deck himself. This game is over. And Rich up a game here over Travis Brown in this really wild matchup.
You know, I sometimes say when you see 8 cast on action and it goes unchecked, it's the closest we have to actual vintage Magic and Legacy, because it sometimes goes completely nuts and there's no way to stop it, especially in the first game.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, either way, let's take a look at what Rich has access to in the sideboard. 1 Haywire Might, 2 Fairy Macabre, 2 copies of Flush of Storm, 2 copies of Hurkyl's Recall, 2 copies of Dismember, 4 Force of Negation, 1 Grafter's Cage, 1 Soul Guide Lantern. What do you like against the Mono White Hammer deck?
It's kind of hard to tell, because it's first of all, it's kind of hard to tell what the Mono White Hammer is going to bring in against you. Most of the time, you would want something like Force of Negation against the hate, as we mentioned like in the previous match. Mono White very often has the hate in form of like creatures, right? It's not unheard of for those decks to sometimes have Kataki, but it also slows them down quite a lot, since they're like very heavily creature-based, artifact-based. So I would guess not. And all the other stuff, like, I don't know, Stony Silence also hurts them so much that you probably don't have to like care all that much about it. Maybe you just bring in like Dismember. What else am I seeing here? Hurkyl's Recall could be pretty good, right? That sounds like something I'd want. Maybe the Might, because you can also get it.
If you peel the equipment off, that's something that like I don't know that necessarily is easy to play around for the Hammer deck. It just certainly dodges a lot of the hate. So yeah, I don't hate it.
Actually, Haywire Might lets you, like, if you have Lotus Petal and Haywire Might and we see the combo, you could gain infinite life. Oh, I guess you need targets. The opponent's
you have to continue to gain the target. No, you don't, right? You can like sack the target in response kind of thing, and then it only cares about it dying and having a target to begin with.
Then I think you actually can just like replay other stuff from your own graveyard and kill your own stuff to go infinite and like in infinite life.
Sure. That's all right, whatever. Fine. Either way, yeah, Rich, some small adjustments here. Maybe Hurkyl's Recall, maybe Force Negation, maybe Dismembers. Some amount of that stuff, the removal spells, I think certainly the premiums over the other counterspell stuff. Let's take a look at what Travis is bringing to the table in this Mono White Hammer deck. Got 2 Lauren. The third path, we got 4 copies of Mana Tithe, 4 copies of Swords of Plowshares, 1 Pithing Needle, and 4 Leyline of the Void. Not a lot of diversity in this sideboard here. What do you like here?
Yeah, you got to bring in the Lauren. It's also like a pretty nice combo when you have Karakas going on, so you can try to make that work. And then you got to figure out whether you want the Leyline of the Void or not, because in the past, it's only really been something to fight over the opponent's Emery, which a lot of times you could just ignore, especially if you're an aggressive deck. Now that there's an infinite combo going on, and Travis doesn't really know how many copies of Mirror and Spy we actually have in the 8-cast deck here. So this might be a very dedicated combo deck. So he might actually feel pressure into bringing in the Leyline, even though overall it's not the greatest card to have against 8-cast. And then the Mana Tithe, like it drops off very quickly. Like it's still okay on the first turn, but even then it's like kind of dodgy. But as the game goes longer, it's really hard for it to connect, and you definitely don't want to keep mana up for it, so I don't really see that happening. I guess Swords of Plowshares is kind of like a nice in-between thing where you can break up the combo, you can take care of both the Sai as well as the Emery, so maybe you want that even more than Leyline, so you can like make the comfortable choice of leaving Leyline in the sideboard. But yeah, I think that's what we are doing. We probably need some answer to Chalice. Oh, I guess we got Lauren for that.
Lauren's. Like the Lauren's got to do it. Maybe he wants some cover of Mana Tithe for that reason. But yeah, like the Chalice, I mean, he was able to play a little bit through it in game one was Travis, but normally the Chalice on one is going to be a very, very big problem for the deck trying to resolve things like Colossus Hammer, Esper Sentinels, and all that. Sigarda's Aid, good stuff. So overall, Lauren's definitely maybe some number of Mana Tithe, and the removal spells maybe drop off beyond there, but the Mana Tithes are pretty bad if it's not hitting specifically Chalice. So here we go. Travis going to almost certainly be kicking us off as players are looking at their opening hands. Looks like maybe happy with what they have to work with here. Rich kind of mapping things out. I see a Chalice among other spells available, and we have kept. So with that, Travis taking another look. Yeah, Travis taking another look.
Doesn't fill me with confidence of the 8-cast players to think so much about it, because sometimes you see the opening hand, you feel like, yeah, this is going to destroy them. But here we got Travis, and what do we needle here in the blind?
Oh, needle in the blind? Emery? It's got to be Emery, right? I mean, he just died to it. He died in this infinite combo, and name Emery.
You probably name Emery, and you do it like proactively because you don't want to be caught like with a Chalice and the needle in your hand. So that makes sense.
Yeah, with the Ancient Tomb, the pickup for Rich, that means a turn 1 Chalice on 1 is possible. Already resolved the 1-drop has Travis, and no mana making for that Opal right now, as here comes 2 Baubles, 1 Mishra's, 1 Urza's. It's the Brothers' War on the battlefield here. Mox Opal.
There's even Urza Saga on the battlefield here. This is like the entire game is Urza Saga themed.
There's all Urza Saga stuff. Here we go. Here's Ancient Tomb.
I think that Chalice is actually not going to be that big of a deal. As long as Travis is able to find another artifact next turn, he will start making constructs right away. And if Rich is sitting on something like a permission-based hand, right? If he has like Force of Will and like anything that doesn't do anything proactive, then Travis might just run away with like a bunch of constructs. Okay, here's Emery, doesn't really do anything.
Well, as long as that Pithing Needle is naming Emery, it doesn't really do a whole lot, but it does attack, I guess. Attack and block as Bobble and Mox Opal going to hit the bin. Great turn 1 from Rich here, able to deploy both a Chalice on 1 and an Emery with Bobbles to spare. And back to Travis we go. Going to go ahead and put a second counter on that Urza's Saga. Now, does he have an artifact? He sure does. Here's Ancient 10.
This is so important. Now you can put on so much pressure on Rich. And like just from the feel of it, it doesn't really feel like Rich is going on all that much. Interestingly, he didn't crack any of the baubles. He could have afforded to crack one of the baubles while still maintaining Metalcraft. He decided to keep them. So that makes me think maybe something like a Kappa Cannoneer is coming down. I don't know. Or maybe he was just like setting up for a Kappa Cannoneer that he might top deck. Let's see what this is.
Yeah, planning for Kappa Cannoneer. Oh, how about Affinity? I'm sorry, for Thought Monitor. So here is the first of the Thought cast effects for this game. Thought Monitor, 2/2 flyer. ETB draws 2 cards. He's going to do that. Is Rich. And now what's the follow-up? No land played yet. Now there is Seat of the Synod.
Yeah, and eventually Rich might actually find one of his 2 copies of Otawara. So that's going to allow him to bounce the Pithing Needle. And then that card is never going to come back down because of the Chalice, which means that Emery can actually go absolutely crazy. And it puts Travis in that weird spot, right? Where if Travis attacks and Rich is allowed to jump block with the Thought Thought Monitor, then he can just replay it from the graveyard. So there are sometimes like situations where you don't even want to attack into it, even though you have the bigger creature. But that, of course, requires Richard to find an answer to Pithing Needle first. And I think that's one of the big ways that he can actually like take a big chunk out of this game and try to just like completely establish himself here. As Travis, it feels like he can really only win like a tempo-based game right now. There's nothing synergistic going on other than making a bunch of constructs, which right now is
artifacts
winning.
plus construct tokens. That's synergy. Come on.
Yeah, big like the kind of synergy we want in Legacies, like they go way beyond just like making big creatures. But I definitely got to compliment Travis for the choice of construct tokens. I really love those windmills.
Yeah, I love the little windmills. It's a good choice indeed. As back to Travis's turn, we are believe we have a Urza Saga ability on the stack here as the third counter's on it. We are going to make a second construct. This one's going to be Summoning Sick, and then we're going to go a Searchin' with the Urza Saga. This is a way you can sneak a one-drop in. So maybe you could reach for something like the Shadowspear or a Colossus Hammer or something like that. Not only grow your constructs, you know, if you can get it equipped or whatever, but also just get it into play underneath this chalice thanks to Urza Saga. So we'll see exactly what Travis selects as the option.
Yeah, Shadowspear would be a pretty big deal. Shadowspear could also allow us, you know, to eventually just attack past a bunch of stuff that would otherwise like completely block us from ever getting in there with damage, like a Psy, for example, which is always a super scary card. No, Travis has other plans. Travis says, okay, I need the mana. I want to make something happen. Even though you got the Shadows in one, maybe I got something else going on, or I'm making plans for the next turn. So that would be like a 3-drop for that deck. What are we looking at for 3 drops?
Well, we know he has a Lauren, right? We saw that from the Urza's bauble that Rich used to look at Travis's hand. So we do know about a Lauren that can do some amount of work to cover, you know, blowing up the chalice or any kind of whatever giant artifacts that can get in your way of your constructs, but aren't going to be able to do that this turn without a lot of extra mana. Well, I guess that's one of them. Here's a Lotus Petal for Travis. And now these constructs, every permanent in play for Travis is an artifact. So we're going to count all those up. Yeah, that number looks like 7 to me. So here's an attack for 7. And yeah, that's actually a lot of pressure. So we'll see what Rich decides to do. Going to chump block with the Thought Monitor. Okay.
Yeah. And we add something more to the board. Yeah, there's the Lauren we talked about. I wonder what that's actually going to take out. Probably a Chalice. You could also go after the land.
Okay, I don't hate it. Yeah, get your 1-drops unlocked, blow up that chalice. Emery can't bring it back thanks to Pithing Needle. And now, you know, you are set up. Your constructs are still quite large, thanks to all of your artifact making mana. So you have 2 5/5s in play. You have your Lauren. If you find Karakas, you know, like you mentioned, you can start doing it every turn. Travis overall, I think, set up to play a little bit of a grindy game with the 8-cast deck, although another Ancient Tomb does spike quite a bit of mana for Rich. We'll see what he can do with it.
Yeah, he's gonna go down to 14 here. That could be a Psy, like for 3 mana. There's not too many different things. Maybe he's gonna split it up into like 2 different spells.
Recall you. Whoa.
Whoop. You just mentioned how on Travis' side on the board, basically everything is an artifact except for like those 2 permanents that we just deployed last turn. This is the ultimate reset. This is gonna give Travis, Richard, everything he needs. All of a sudden, Emery is back online. You can do everything you want. You can get like all the mana back. You can get your thought monitors back. As Travis needs to rebuild quite heavily, and I'm not sure he's going to be able to do that in time before Sai complete. I keep calling her Sai, man. Before Emery runs away the game. Yeah.
Well, an important part of the equation here too is now this Emery is online thanks to Pithing Needle going away, and we get to rebuy the Chalice on one, so the Pithing Needle cannot be redeployed. So Emery now is going to be online to bring back these thought monitors and these baubles and all this kind of stuff that previously was shut off. So, you know, this Emery, even though it wasn't doing anything most of the game, now very, very much online. Here's an attack for 2 from Lauren, thanks to this little vigilance keyword that Lauren has. Here's a Mox Opal. Not quite turned on yet. Need a little bit more help. See what Travis wants to do. Still only 2 mana available. Draw a card. Let's do it. Both players draw a card thanks to Lauren.
Yeah, I guess if you feel like you're that far behind, there's always the option of the opponent literally drawing just like dead cards while you keep drawing like all the big things that you need. Oh, that doesn't resolve. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Esper Sentinel resolved.
You
oh, my goodness. You got the Esper Sentinel through thanks to Chalice, and then Needle tried to come down, and Rich said, nope, no thank you. Chalice trigger.
Selective countering. Loving it.
I don't know. I don't think that's how it works. Anyway, here is a Psy Master Thopter. So finally, you could be talking about Psy that is in play thanks to Ancient Tomb, Seed of the Synod, and Emery still not activated yet means the chance of Thopters is very, very high from here.
Yeah, and from here, it's so hard for Travis to get out of this. Like, Travis would need something like his own copy of, I don't know, Hercules Recall, which, of course, is not in this mono-white deck here. We might see, like, at this point, Rich really is only looking for a way to take this down. He can draw a bunch of cards every single turn if he gets, like, Thought Monitor and a way to kill it. He can sacrifice it to Sai, for example, and then replay it every single turn until he just finds Kappa Cannoneer and probably, like, closes out the game in 2 swings.
Yeah, well, yeah, in the meantime, I mean, even just this Thought Monitor and these side tokens are going to do a good job of starting to swing the race. Rich, obviously down quite a few life points, but able to produce quite a few blockers, get quite a few more resources, and is going to be able to start laying the pressure on very, very, very quickly, even with what's just in play. As here is a Lotus Petal card coming potentially for Travis off Esper Sentinel.
Let's see.
Yeah, it is going to be drawn. So a card coming for Travis. And another token coming for Rich.
I feel sorry for Travis. Like, this game looked really good for him, but Hercules Recall, just like by the nature of the card, actually, I didn't even see it like as we were looking at the sideboards. That's one of those completely backbreaking cards. There's really only like 1, maybe 2 matchups in Legacy where you desperately want this card, but when you do have it, the impact is enormous, as you just saw in this game. As Travis is trying to put something together, but we looked at the sideboard. There's no real heavy hitters. Like, the best he got is Loam plus Karakas is like a recurring engine, and that's just like way too slow in the face of what I previously, and I stand by that, this is basically at this point a vintage deck doing its thing, and we are trying to play against it with like a ported modern deck, and it can work, but not at this stage of the game anymore.
Yeah, I definitely agree with your assessment there. And like you mentioned, Hercules Recall pretty narrow, most likely normally for the mirror, but going to have a little bit of utility here. Here comes a Sword of Fire and Ice. That one's going to happen. And maybe now if we get something going, we can start picking off some of these creatures, because that's going to do a good job. I believe Size Thopters, even though they're not represented here, I think they're blue.
Oh, they're colorless. That's a problem.
They're colorless?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Well, rip. Yeah, they sure are colorless. All right, never mind. Those are the right Thopters indeed. So now the Sword of Fire and Ice looks a little less enticing with no access to trample for Travis. And here's another Thought Monitor, adding more bodies from Sai, more bodies in the air particularly. So the evasion from Ornithopter not going to look too good. And Rich really starts to take a hold on this game. 2 cards coming for Rich.
Also, as soon as we just find Marin Spy, the game is basically also going to end, because at that point, Rich has access to his entire deck. Could even do something like, sack his own Chalice to draw his entire deck right away with the other Spell Bomb that's able to be resolved. So there's many ways this game can basically end on the spot, and Travis knows it, right? He's looking at the board and he sees the other side down, and it's like, yeah, sure, you do your thing, hit me. 5 in the air.
Beat me up. Yeah, you got a bunch of stuff. Block 1 Thopter with Ornithopter, Thopter on Thopter action, and the rest of it's coming through. It looks to be 4 damage, down to 16 is Travis. Follow-up for Rich is going to be another copy of Mox Opal, which is going to generate another Thopter, and of course get rid of the first one. Normally you can do some cute stuff with Sai, like cracking your artifacts or whatever, drawing cards. A bunch of cute stuff. Probably not going to be necessary for Rich to win this game, as he has a very, very commanding lead. And with no artifact sweepers like Hercules Recall in Travis's deck, going to be really tough. As Lauren going to go drawing again. More cards coming for both players. We'll see what Travis can find. Going to need a lot of help. Here's an equip of Sword of Fire and Ice onto Esper Sentinel. Now going to have to pay 3 in order to cover the trigger. As here is a no attack yet.
Something we can cast Dismember or something? Looks like it.
Yeah, it looks like we're casting something. Recall again? Oh my goodness.
Guess that works.
Both of those recalls?
Even that's Travis draw the card. It's like, okay, it's fine. You get the extra card.
Yeah, sure. You can have all your cards. You're about to have a handful of cards. They were in play a second ago. All right.
And once again, we are
the
back.
land too, sure. Oh, jeez.
Once back, Plains, Lauren. That's the only thing we got going on here. As Travis rebuilds for a second time.
Storm count. I think it's like 5, 6. I don't know.
That would be the coolest way to finish this off. Just like all of a sudden, and
so sick. We got the low
great shot. I mean, he's down. Like Travis, Richard's down to 8 life. Like that.
Esper Sentinel gets countered by Chalice. Sigarda's Aid, the follow-up here, also likely going to get countered by Chalice. We might be in full, can I let this resolve and not care about it territory for Rich. No. All right, fine. Chalice it. Get this out of here. I love this. I love this style from Rich. Be like, I don't know. maybe it's fine. As we go back to Rich, who has all the goodies, all the permanents, and with the second Hurkyl's Recall on Travis, this is getting to be way too overwhelming. That even some kind of like sword action is not going to be able to cover.
For Richard, the only real limiting factor for him right now is real estate on the board. Like, he's going to run out of that real quickly, and there's going to be no more place for like extra tokens and stuff. Thus far, he has declined like to use. Oh, he was going to cast his own Shadowspear and realized, oh no, it would get
we caught that one real quick. Yeah, that one gets Chalice. We don't want that. And here is the Urza Saga going to enter with a counter. Going to add more permanents to the mix here in just a moment. In the meantime, let's see what Emery has access to, because we still have that. Just all angles firing for the 8-cast deck. As here's an attack with everything. Love it. Get in the red zone over there and block. That'll be an attack for 8. That's a 2-turn clock for Travis, for those counting at home. And here is more permanents in the form of an Urza's Bauble. Thinking about it. It will be Urza's Bauble, so that will trigger Sai, make another Thopter, provide more blockers for Rich, in addition to what's already present in the form of, I think just Sai is untapped. So we have Sai and a Thopter to block. And we will see what's in Travis's hand. A whole bunch of cards that you've probably already seen, thanks to Hurkyl's Recall.
Number 6, what's it going to be?
Colossus Hammer. Don't think we knew that one, but there it is, unable to be cast. We could cast it. It's just not going to.
Cigar 8 or something?
Probably. Yeah, I think that was a Cigar 8. Didn't get a great look thanks to the glare, but some kind of white card. And
the next attack is going to be lethal. It doesn't really like Rich at this point. Rich really only cares about, like, I guess, having Force of Worlds in hand, because this during the Swiss it's close deck list, right? Technically, Travis could have something like Destroy All Artifacts, which would be like horrible for him, but I mean, that's the only way. If you got rid of one of the Mirren Spies, dude, seriously, like those that Mirren Spy technique, I like that quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was very impressive that we saw in game 1. Unfortunately, it's not an artifact. Can't buy it back with Emery, so if you mill it over, it's just like, no. But I guess that's why you play 2, huh?
Yeah,
Stoneforge Mystic, one of the only available plays for Travis, and facing down very lethal in the air, is going to need to assemble something right now.
Chat is asking, this dude is playing Hammer and Legacy. Yeah, it's a legitimate deck. It actually has won Legacy challenges. There's several modern decks you can port over. We talked about this earlier, right? Most of the Scam decks, the Rhinos deck, the Hammer deck. I'm probably forgetting 1 or 2 decks. There's a couple of modern decks you can. I mean, when I say easily, it's not exactly easily, but just like from gameplay, they can very easily be ported over.
Absolutely. I mean, like we mentioned before, a lot of the powerful stuff going on in Modern is very much going on in Legacy. We see the Rhinos deck, we see the Hammer deck, we see the Scam deck, even like a bunch of these Modern shells port over to Legacy with just even more juiced up tools thanks to Spirit Guides and, duels, all that stuff. And after challenge checking a few more times, Travis extends the hand. We're done here. And Rich is, going to advance to 3-0 with his really spicy take on 8-cast. I really like the inclusion of a couple little pieces just to really put the check mark on a game, basically draw you all your forces, that kind of stuff, make sure you cannot lose. So an impressive start for him, and he's certainly looking to advance on the leaderboard that we have access to. So, well, before we cut to a break and we bring you round number 4, let's take a quick look first at what these players are playing for. As Rich advancing to 3-0, this is the Legacy Trial, which is a little bit different in breakdown from Showdown. The Showdowns are events that qualify you for the championship. This one will still qualify you for DreamHack. As you can see there, 30 points on the line for first place. A DreamHack qualification, $1,200. Second place, $600, 25 points. And then it falls off from there as far as points and payment breakdown. So a lot on the line for these players. Rich especially looking to, I'm sure, pick up more points, move up the leaderboard, and qualify. But, until then, we have quite a bit more Magic to play. Before we cut to a break, thank you all very much for being here. If you are watching at home, this is your first time being here, please make sure to hit that follow, hit that subscribe button, support NRG, and of course, stay connected. We are available on all social media that you have access to. You can find us on whatever, YouTube, Twitch, obviously is where you're watching us here. You can find us on Twitter, even on Facebook. You can find Nerd Rage Gaming. You can stay updated with the latest events in NRG series. And hey, maybe make it out to one, and maybe we'll see you on camera. We can commentate about your sweet tech that you are playing as well. In the meantime, don't go anywhere, and we will see you after the break.